was a job it was hard, I didn't like as much, but it taught me too, look, if you don't get an education, you know, you're gonna be doing something similar to this over a long period of time. And, but in our day though too, I needed money to go to college, cause my dad didn't have enough money to pay for anything post-high school. And I knew that, you know, he had these kids and he didn't have extra money in his paycheck that he was ever gonna be able to pay for tuition or something. So I needed money that I could put in the bank. My parents were real good at helping us save money and get at the bank. And I remember my last 2 months of high school, I had a chance to work at an aluminum supply company here in Spokane. And they used to make aluminum pipe. It was out on Fancher Road near Broadway. And the manager of the facility had seen a resume that I'd put in my junior year. I didn't get the job my junior year, but I'm in my senior year, and he says, look, it's springtime. We can hire you for 2 months, for April and May, but it's a swing shift, meaning you're gonna work from 4 o'clock in the afternoon till midnight. And he knew I was a senior in high school. I had wrestled with his son on our wrestling team. And that's kind of the reason why when he saw my application, he remembered me from the awards banquet. And he says, look, you'd be perfect for this job if you wanted. But you know, it's gonna be for April and May, and when June comes, we're gonna have to let you go. I said, great. It was an answer to a prayer for me, because I could make several hundreds, almost a couple $1,000 during that 2-month period of time. And then I would have enough money to go away to college. Tuition in the day was not expensive, but board and room, living away from home, was expensive. So I did that, and then I worked at what used to be Washington Water Power is now at Vista, my June, July, and August before I went away to college. But through those 5 months, I was able to save up enough money for a couple of years of school. So I don't look at work and think, oh, I really love this work. It was all labor type work, and it was hard work, but it gave me money, and I needed money in order to do what I wanted to do, go to school and get an education. So, you know, that kind of work sticks with me, and I would tell anybody, look, you're gonna need to learn how to work in life, and it doesn't matter what you do, it really doesn't. You know, if you just work and work well, you'll be paid for it, and save it, and use it to get an education, and invest in yourself, and with time, you'll be able to make more money. But you know, people think that money grows on trees. It doesn't. Or that people are just lucky. That's how you make money. Well, that's not the case. You've got to know how to work, and work is the key to success. As in the running, training was the key to winning championships. You don't get to the race on the day of the championship run and say, okay, I'm gonna run a winning race. If you haven't trained, you can't do it. You know, the heart and lungs and legs have to be built up over an extended period of time. And if you do the training, you have a chance of winning. If you don't, you have no chance of winning. And I would say the same thing is in business. You know, we use the saying, we are a 40-year overnight success in business. You know, we were at it for 40 years. And, you know, just with time and being in the industry long enough and learning how to work long enough, you know, you found some opportunities. And so it was a matter of taking advantage of opportunities that you once saw, but you wouldn't have seen them if you hadn't put in all the groundwork ahead of time. And I think that's one of the keys to success that people just minimize. You've got to work hard and over an extended period of time, and if you do that, eventually an opportunity will come along that you'll recognize. And you'll be able to hit a home run. It's like when you mentioned coming in here, do we still have that shopping center? And we do. But when that Shadle Shopping Center opportunity came along, I had been in the industry for 30 some odd years. And I had worked with big box retailers, so I knew what they looked for. When I say big box retailers, like it's entities like Walmart, I knew what they were looking for.
Like as in like building structure, or just like as in like what Walmart needs for like the surrounding areas, or?
Yeah, what they needed for spacing, I knew that they needed a spot on that part of town. I didn't know at the time when I first looked at it that they could fit into that center, cause it was an old beat up center. People don't remember it, but it had been built in the sixties, and by the 30, 40 years later, it was a dinosaur. And really what needed to happen, it needed to be torn down and then these tenants put into it. But I could see that Walmart would fit on site, that they would fit, that it would work for them, so we took the project to them, said, would you want, they said, sure. But from the day they said sure, it was still 2 years before they made a commitment to actually be there.
Mm-hmm.
So between that time of saying, yeah, we acquired the site, we bought it, we put together a group that could pay for it, it would pay for itself for 2 years until we actually could get Walmart on it. Once we landed Walmart, it was a home run.
Mm-hmm.
Cause then everybody wanted to be there. But to get to that point, you know, that happened in 1997, 1998. I had been in the industry for almost 20 years.
Mm.
And, but it took that 18, 19, 20 years of education to be in a point when they came along in 1997, 1998, yeah, it would fit, it would work. And prior to doing that, we had done a Fred Meyer deal. There's the Fred Meyer out in the valley at Sprague and Sullivan. My partner and I had assembled that site. We were gonna put a grocery store on it. And by assembling it, we went out and talked to the property owners and got contracts from them to tie up their properties so that we could sell it to a grocer. Well, a grocer never appeared, but Target appeared and didn't do it, and then Fred Meyer appeared and did do it. And so that was kind of the education getting us to a Walmart on another project in another part of town. So things build upon each other, and everything becomes a learning curve for the next deal, the next project. So one thing leads to another, and that's how you kind of eventually put deals together.
So is commercial real estate developer, is that the correct title, would you say?
Yeah, that would be probably the best way of phrasing it. Right now, I think we would call us a developer investor.
Development investor, okay. How does somebody that has a good idea turn it into a successful business, or how do they take that step to get to that next step?
Well, first you have to have a really good idea. It's gotta be a solid idea, you know. I think anybody in business will tell you that, you know, you've gotta have a product, or you've gotta have an idea, or in real estate development, you better have the project and the tenants and the idea and the location in mind, you know, before anything's gonna happen. So after you have an idea, the second thing that you need is capital. It takes money. All of these projects take money. Starting a business takes money, maybe not as much money, but for us to be in this real estate industry over that period of time, we needed money. You needed money to live on. So in the real estate industry, you're paid commissions, so you have to go out and find deals. You don't act as a principal in, but you're gonna be a broker. You know of somebody that's looking for something, and you know where you can find it for them. And in commercial real estate, you're looking at the major arterials, you know, for retail, or you're looking at office buildings for leasing space, or you're looking at warehouses for leasing warehouse space, or you're looking at apartment houses for what they call multifamily. But to be a player in one of those projects, you have to have capital. And the way that you get it, when you get into the industry, if you don't have capital, is you become a broker and you try to go earn commissions. And over time you earn commissions and you can save those commissions up. And or you find people who've got capital that will be partners with you in projects.
Okay. How, what was a challenge that you had when you started your business that you maybe didn't see, like when you were maybe doing like your goals, or like how you envision things to go?
Well, I think when we broke into the industry, understanding the amount of money it would take to survive, I didn't quite appreciate that. But as I mentioned to you, I in law school had sold a couple apartment houses, so I had several $1,000s in my bank or in my pocket. When we graduated from law school, my other classmates didn't have any money. But because we were able to sell a couple good-sized apartment houses, I was able to have some money. Now, to me, it was a lot of money. In today's world, it wouldn't be very much money, but in those days, I think it was $7,000, $8,000, $9,000. But that gave me the ability to think, okay, I can go back to Spokane, I can use that money to live off of while I break into the industry here. Well, with a family and kids, that money gets eaten up pretty quick. And it did. And so, we're coming back to Spokane on early 1981, 82, 83. We burned through that money. And the business is slow. And it doesn't go real quick. So, I should have realized it was going to take more capital to survive. But it was also a good motivation because I knew I had to go out and make some deals to survive.
Make sure everybody was eating.
And make sure everybody was eating.
Yeah.
And groceries were on the table. And you can look at this house and think, oh, we've always lived here. Well, we haven't. Our first house was at 811 West 27th, and it was about 800 square feet. So it was a tiny house, and we had 4 kids in that house.
That's crazy. How many bedrooms?
2 bedrooms on the main floor, 2 bedrooms, a living room, and a teeny tiny kitchen. The kitchen probably couldn't be more than 60 square feet. It was tiny, no dishwasher. And it was old. It was built in 1929. But we were able to buy it on a contract because I wouldn't qualify for financing at a bank because I didn't have a paycheck. I only earned commissions.
Yeah.
So the estate family, and this is in the day too when interest rates were 15%, 16%. So take the interest rates that we have today and triple them. So the estate or the family that owned the property said we'll carry a contract on it. We felt fortunate they gave us a contract at 12%. So it took a down payment of about $3,000 or $4,000 to buy the house, and it was a monthly payment of about $400. So that was our first house, and that was my first piece of real estate. So not having enough capital in the beginning was a surprise after I was in the business. But then we just had to work real hard and scrimp and save and, make ends meet. And we survived, luckily, and we weren't flush. But we got through the first 3-4 years, and then things started to take off. So, the first 3-4 years in anything is just brutal. Capital is at a premium just to survive. And you've got to stay at it at that time when you feel like you want to quit. So that was probably the most important time of just staying with something when it wasn't paying off, knowing that someday it might. But even when we started that, I had no idea that in the end we'd be acquiring shopping centers, or that we'd be working with Walmart, or that we'd be, any of that kind of stuff.
How, you might have said it earlier, how did you say you came in contact with, like how does someone come in contact with like a Walmart or a Fred Meyer's, or like how to,
Well,
I know it's a lot harder than
well, in the case of Fred Meyer, we happened to have secured the right to buy a piece of property at a corner that they wanted to be at, not knowing that they were in the market looking for that piece of property or that kind of property. So we just went out, contacted property owners, said, look, we'd like to tie up your piece of property. We'd like to assemble it with the adjoining neighbors. If we can get enough pieces pulled together, we'll have a piece of property big enough that some big retailer could come in and acquire. And they said, great, we'll give you a 6-month contract on it. And see what you can do. So after we secured the rights to acquire the property, then we contacted the users saying, okay, would you like to be here? And First Target came along and then passed, and then we contacted Fred Meyer, and they said, sure, we're in the market, we're looking. And so they then entered into a contract with us. We had an underlying contract, and then they had a contract on top of our contract to take our position. And they finally performed on it. Then after we had done that, we had just sent a letter knowing that Walmart was coming to the market someday. They had not come to the Northwest yet. And so we just sent them a letter saying, look, we're brokers in the Northwest. If you'd like to come to the Northwest, we'd like to work with you. And it was just a mass, I wouldn't want to say a mass mailing because there aren't a lot of retailers like that, but we sent a letter out and they responded to it. We also, in sending the letter out, sent our resumes. So my background was I had a law degree, I was a member of the Bar Association, and I also had a CPA certificate. I studied accounting at BYU.
Okay.
So I could tell them I was a CPA attorney, but I had never practiced in either of those two fields, but I had licenses. But my life was in commercial real estate. My partner, Dick, had an engineering degree, civil engineering degree, and had an MBA. So they could see that this was a small firm with two guys who, apparently could think or write a letter.
Mm-hmm.
And then they called us up and said, look, we're coming to the Northwest. If you'd like to work with us, we want you to come to our office in Arkansas and we'll interview you. So we said, sure. We got on the plane the next week, flew down. And after they interviewed us and saw that they could work with us, they said, great, we've got a project that we'd like to do in Wenatchee, Washington.
Mm-hmm.
This is our purchase agreement, and this is what we are looking for. So see if you can go find us a site. So we came back, I went to Wenatchee, found a site, got it under contract, turned around and told them, and this was all in a matter of weeks. I said, we've been to the market, we think you should take this site, we've got it under contract. At which point then they gave us another assignment and another assignment. And they ended up over, the 20-year period of time giving us about 50 assignments.
Really?
Yeah. So one thing builds on the other. And as we were partway through that process of being with Walmart, finding sites and locations for them, this opportunity at Shadle opens up.
How does someone build strong relationships with people and things like that? How does somebody like that maybe is like coming up, how can they build those relationships with maybe people that are a little bit higher than them, or be in those types of rooms that could maybe possibly...
Well, you've got to you've got to recognize that there's no mystery in life or business. And some of business is based on who you know, kind of a thing.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a certain amount of truth to that, but in the kind of stuff that somebody is wanting to work really hard at, people will recognize the fact that somebody's smart and hardworking, I think. And there's got to be ways that you distinguish that and show them, look, I'm hardworking, I'm persistent, I will stay at something. And normally everybody will be given an opportunity at some point, and it's what you do with that opportunity that makes the difference. So when we were given our first assignment in Wenatchee, we had to perform. We had to go to the market, find the site, find the location, explain to them why this was the best location in the market. And it was a great location. It was in the center of town. It was an old orchard. But the orchard had to go through a rezone to be able to be used as a retail site.
Mm.
So I think what you've got to do, one, you have to have some faith that if you work hard, people will recognize it. And two, you've got to ask for the business. It's like this interview. You're a hardworking guy. You asked me, I think you asked me a time in the past to do it once too, and for whatever reason it didn't happen, but you asked again. So you were persistent. And I knew that you're a hardworking kid. You're working hard, you're trying to get started, etc. So I recognize that, and I will give a person like that a chance because somebody gave me a chance.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So if you're just hardworking, you're persistent, you're gonna do well, and then I, as a business person, will give a person like that opportunity. In business, you're really just looking for the best people that you can find.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care if they're well connected. I don't care if they were the smartest kids in their class. If you can talk to me, look me in the eye, and if you will do what you tell me you're going to do, I have to know that I can count on you to look after my best interest. So, in business, you're always presented with problems or challenges, and you have to find answers to those problems or challenges. So I'm looking for people that can help me, either pick up my next project, do my next thing, etc. And I personally will reward that. Now, I think others are the same, you know? If you're with some big retailer and you're coming to an area, and let's say that you've got multiple states to cover, what you're looking for in the area that you're working in is somebody that's smart and hardworking and that you can trust. And if you can find that, then you'll work with them to help you do your job. So Walmart asked us to help them in their market penetration in the Northwest. Okay, we were only as good as our last project. We would only get another project if we didn't screw up and if we continued to perform. And as long as we continued to perform, they would give us more work. Well, they've given us work for 32 years, you know. So apparently we've done some things right, but we're not perfect and we're not uber intelligent, but we're hardworking. And you know, I would say when you're in business, stay committed to what you're doing, have longevity in the industry, work hard, gain a reputation for working hard, be honest and candid. And honest, I think sometimes is just being able to be candid with people. You know, I don't know exactly what your current business assignment requires, but I would assume that where you're at, if something goes wrong, they want to know what happened, and they want you to be candid with it. And it's not like we're gonna avoid all problems at all times, we don't. In business, there's nothing but problems. And so how do you address them? How do you take care of them? How do you solve the problem is really what it comes down to. You know, we with our projects, on some of our projects, we have a mini storage project over here. And we found a property management entity that is very good. It's the Extra Space project over by the Moran Prairie School.
Yeah.
So that's one of our projects, but we've got a property manager that is outstanding, you know, that does a good job. But it you know, it doesn't make problems go away, but it solves a whole lot of problems because we know we can trust them, they work hard, they do a good job, etc. But people are looking for that in us when they're looking to hire us or ask us to do things for them.
You said something that I thought was really important too. I believe this is one of my biggest things that I believe, and I always think I don't know if you know who David Meltzer is. He's a entrepreneur. He was the founder of he made a whole bunch of money off of Ford or something like that, and then lost $700 million or something like that, and then made it all back. But he always says, he's like, I wake up every day and I ask myself, how can I help somebody and how can they help me?
Yeah.
Or how am I going to be in service to you and how are you going to be in service to me? And I think about that every day. How can I be in service to somebody? Because at the end of the day, I know once I'm in service, they're going to be in service. They're going to, you're going to want to come get involved with what I'm doing because you're like, dang, that's
When I had to, we were investing in the stock market back in the 80s, and we didn't have a lot of money, but had a little bit. And I had to try to figure out what's my philosophy for investing. And I ran across a book written by a guy named Benjamin Graham. It's called The Intelligent Investor. And Ben Graham is a guy that came through the Depression and told you to, as you invested, to go out and look for companies of value. And you don't invest in the market just because you don't want, you want to take investing away from gambling. You can gamble with your money. And if gambling is, you go and you're just playing a game of chance. You might win, you might lose, who knows? Investing is different. Investing, you're trying to find something that's undervalued, and you're trying to buy it at a fair price. So if it's undervalued and you can acquire it at a fair price, you will make money in the long run. And I have always told everyone that in real estate, you make money in buying real estate. You never make money in selling real estate.
Why is that? I feel like it should be, I feel like you should.
It would be the opposite.
Yeah.
You have to buy it right. If you buy at the right price, then you will make money at it because with time, markets go up and it will go up too. So you never want to overpay for something. Meaning, you know, in the current housing market over the past couple of years has gotten hyper crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's coming back down. Well, you made money not buying in the last 18 to 24 months. You made money buying 5-10 years ago at the right price.
Mm-hmm.
Because you as the seller don't set price, the new buyer sets the price. If that makes sense. I mean, we were looking at a piece of property the other day to buy in another state. And somebody wanted 30% more than they had paid for it 12 months ago. Well, I know that 12 months ago we were at the height of the market. And over the past 12 months, prices have gone down.
Yeah.
So I'm not gonna pay you 30%, a premium of 30%. I'll pay you what you paid for it.
Mm-hmm.
I won't pay you the premium. So the transaction fell apart because we couldn't come to terms. But if I could have bought it at what they paid for it, then I'd feel okay about it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because they, it was worth what they had paid for it, not what they wanted for it. So I, as the buyer, am setting the price. The seller may say, I want 30% more than it's worth, but it's not worth it. And I have to be smart enough to know which way the market is going. But I have to have been in the market long enough to understand that. There used to be a time in town here where you could buy land on the west side of town for 25 cents a foot.
Really?
Yeah, in the West Plains area. My partner did a lot of that.
Like bought it up or just like?
Yeah, bought it up, put it into partnerships.
Yeah, might as well, like for
And he-
25 cents a.
Yeah, so he put together a lot of partnerships, and it ended up being that one of the sites that he acquired is the site that Amazon now sits on. And when they came in, they paid a lot more than 25 cents a foot for the site.
I just built the new. Was working construction, and I just built the new facilities that are going in out there. Like they're
There are other buildings and stuff.
yeah, there's other buildings out there that's right next to the Amazon facility, and they're charging 60 cents a foot.
Yeah,
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 I was like,
yeah, yeah. So you can see that, the money was made in the buying it right, and when the market came to you and it was changing, you're gonna reap the benefit of doing it. But we bought this site that our house sits on for $200,000. It's 10 acres. You can't, if you wanna buy a nice lot in town to build a house on of 10 or 12 or 15,000 square feet,
it's gonna be way more.
you'll pay a couple $100,000 for that small lot.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I've got 10 acres for that number, but I bought it 15 years ago, and so I bought it at a fair price 15 years ago, and now today it's worth a lot more than that. But that's true in everything in real estate that you touch. If you don't get too hyped up, too excited about it, and it doesn't take long to study a market to figure out what things are worth, and pay a fair price, but don't overpay for it. Don't get so excited that you've gotta have it.
Mm-hmm.
And buy it at a fair price, you hold it with time, you'll make money at it.
Okay, quick question for you as well. You kind of said something about it earlier. How would, let's say somebody is starting off, they got $100. How should they go about investing?
Well, I think, the dollar amount's not as important as the lifestyle that you're creating. I've known people who've made a lot of money who spend a lot of money, and they don't develop wealth by doing that. I've known people who don't make much money but save a little bit of everything that they make. They over time do well and are successful financially. I've got a friend who was a high school teacher and principal, and he's the only one that worked in the family. His wife didn't work. And they recently retired this last summer, and they have been able to squirrel away and save up a substantial nest egg over 30 years. It was their lifestyle that permitted them to save money, because they never spent all the money that they made each month. They saved some. They always put some money into retirement. They always, stayed within their means. They didn't acquire a lot of credit cards. They didn't have a lot of debt. So they lived within their means, and they built up a surplus, and with that surplus, they invested it. That's where wealth comes from. So living within your means is key to anything that anybody will ever do. If you spend all the money that you make, you will never have any money left over to invest. And if you never have any money left over to invest, you better be able to work every day for the rest of your life.
Yeah. So I take it you're not a big credit card person.
No, we pay our credit card off at the end of each month.
But for like somebody maybe like my age, probably not a.
don't do credit cards.
Okay.
I mean, just live within your means. You get a paycheck, you know, save a little bit of that paycheck, just squirrel it away. Get into the habit of doing that.
Mhm.
It's the habit that will create wealth. The small amounts of money won't create any great wealth in and of itself if you just put it in a cardboard box, but if you hold on to it, then after a period of time you'll have some money that you can actually invest in something. Then you have to figure out what are you going to invest it in.
Mhm.
And then you've got to be smart enough about markets to say, okay, this thing is fairly priced, I'll buy it, and it will go up with time, or this thing is not fairly priced and I won't buy it. And the stock market is one thing that you can look at constantly to try to figure out, is it fairly priced or is it overpriced?
Mhm.
And, you know, things in the market can get crazy. But you have to be astute enough to know that something is hyped or overpriced or it's in crazy land. And there are certain parameters inside any market. I mean, if you went out into the Spokane market now looking for real estate, if you spent a couple days studying it, let's say you spent a week studying it, after a week you become an expert on pricing of houses in Spokane. And you know the different parts of town dictate different prices.
Mhm.
And so you can compare that with something that comes onto the market brand new to say it's either fairly priced, it's overpriced, or it's underpriced. And by doing that, then you become this expert, and so you could actually say, okay, I'm gonna go buy something because I think it's underpriced based on the market data that I've accumulated. But if you're investing in the stock market, the same thing is true. You know, if you overpay for something in the stock market, you'll spend forever waiting for it to rebound
Mhm.
to get back up to that price. And if you find something in the market that you know is way underpriced, then that's a good deal. And then you buy it, hold on to it, let the price go up, and you sell it, make a profit, and go to your next investment. So it's transacting or building from one transaction to another. And in business, there's really only two rules to investing. Rule number one is never lose money. Rule number two, never forget rule number one.
Say that.
You know, so
Yes.
the key is don't lose money, be smart about your investments, find something of value. And one of the best investments you can make in business is really just in yourself. That's the best investment that you'll ever make. You know, gain skills, gain an education, gain technical understanding that others don't have. Then you've got value. In the world, in economics, you're paid for productivity. What can you do that others can't do? Okay, I remember this because we went back and looked at the Vanderbilt mansion back in North Carolina, and it was built 150 years ago. And they had to build a railroad track into the site to carry the materials to the site. And the house was massive. It had 100 or some odd rooms to it. It was on this massive estate, and they had to build the estate up. But in that project, there were laborers that were paid $1 a day. Okay, and then there were laborers that could do something that others couldn't do, and they were paid $2 a day.
Mhm.
And the craftsmen in the project, the ones that could actually do the fine things in the house, were paid $4 a day. So your productivity, your ability to do something that others couldn't do, determine how much money you would be paid. But that's been true in life ever since. If you can do something that I can't do, somebody will pay you for that skill set because you can do it and I can't. If we want to be laborers, if we want to go dig holes, there's a lot of people that can do that. There's not a lot of people that can work a technical machine, you know, at the TV station, let's say. There's things that you can do there that I can't do, or that you know how to do that I can't do. You'll be paid for that expertise. Think of it as a doctor. A doctor is paid not because he went to school for so long. Teachers go to school for a long time. They don't not paid, but doctors are paid.
Yeah, I agree.
They're paid because they have an expertise. They know what to do with this set of facts with a patient, or they know how to use these kinds of machines to heal the patient, or they know how to do this kind of operation. Only a few people can do that. They're paid accordingly. So if develop your skills, develop your skill set, you'll be paid for that. And you know, the best investment you ever make in life will be just in yourself. The education that you get, the skills that you acquire.
what builds good leaders? What helps somebody take that next step into being like a CEO or maybe like a boss or just something of where you have to like look over people, you have to kind of like, is it like the structure? Is it what do you think
Well,
it is that?
I think, the managing people is kind of a different beast. We in our business don't manage a lot of people. We manage projects. We bring people together inside our projects for a one-time type, business transactional deal, and then they'll go their separate ways. So we bring contractors together, we bring bankers together, we bring tenants together, in a one-time type setting to create a project that will produce money over an extended period of time. What makes people do that? There's a couple of things. One is the desire to build or grow something. Second idea is a fear of failure. You just don't want to fail.
Mm-hmm.
I think in our business, I've always enjoyed when we build something, when we create something. That's, to me, is the funnest part of the business. We have this project over on by the Moran Prairie, and I go by it each day. I like looking at it. Now, I'm not involved out there each day making decisions. That's the contractor, the engineers, the bankers, etc. But I like looking at it. It just makes me feel good because we're actually creating something of value. Same thing with Shale. When we built it, we had to tear the old buildings down and build them back up. I would go up each day and watch the buildings being torn down. I just enjoyed that. I enjoyed seeing something being developed. So that's what got my engine going. That's what I enjoy doing. Now, some people are real good at managing people, but managing people it takes talent.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know that I'm strong in that as strong as others. And generally, when you manage people, you can only manage a handful of people, and those people then have to manage a handful of people, et cetera, et cetera. So even if you have a massive corporation, the head of the corporation is probably working with 10 people, who are working each with 10 people, who are each working with 10 people. Yeah, so it's a massive pyramid that's built up, and somebody's sitting at the top. And if you're going to be good at that, you have to know which direction the company's going. You have to have a vision of where you want to take them, and your vision better be right.
Mm-hmm.
You've got companies and entities that head in the wrong direction. Well, that's the person at the top making a poor decision. And if they do well, the person at the top's making a good choice or a good decision. So I've never considered myself smart enough probably to do that. I have to stay down in the project-based type things. I'm good at that. I don't think I would be as good at running IBM.
Yeah.
But I'm good at living in Spokane, finding real estate projects, or in the Northwest, finding real estate projects that make money, and that's my little.
The niche.
That's my niche.
Yeah, I like that. I actually lied. I got two things now.
Okay.
This one's super quick though. Pet peeves. I want to know maybe like two pet peeves of yours that.
Pet peeve. What I want in business is I want honesty and candor always. And I've tried to explain this to people. I will not get upset at you for telling me that something's gone wrong. I will get upset at you if you know that something's gone wrong and you have delayed or hid it from me.
Mm-hmm.
And many times people, it's not that they're hiding it because they're dishonest, it's that they don't want to take bad news to the king. Give me the bad news. The sooner you give me the bad news, we can solve the problem. So tell me, as soon as you know anything that's not going right, tell me about it. And with time, what you'll learn too is that when you tell somebody about what's gone wrong, suggest to them a solution. I've never gotten mad at somebody for telling me that something was wrong, that we've been doing something wrong, that we haven't been accounting for it in the right way, or that we made a mistake. I want to know that sooner than later. The sooner I know it, I will save money.
Mm-hmm.
The longer it goes on and I stay involved in something that's stupid, the more money I will lose.
Yeah.
So tell me sooner than later. And I will appreciate that with time. So I like candor, I like honesty, I like And I don't need somebody that agrees with me on everything. I can agree with myself.
Honestly, yes.
I don't need another person like me.
Yes men, that's what we call them.
Yeah. I don't need a yes person. I need candor. I need a good set of eyes. Our partnership at Shavel is a four-headed partnership. It's made up of an attorney, an engineer, another engineer who went into investing in real estate, and myself, the broker, part of it. So that four-headed partnership is good. Our attorney always tells us everything that can go wrong in the project, which is appreciated. Now, sometimes we agree with them and sometimes we don't. Well, we'll take the risk. The engineers will say you can do it for this reason or that reason, or you can't. So it's a partnership made up of different personalities who've got different strengths, and we succeed because of candor and honesty. Now, I say honesty. What I'm probably saying more is candor. I assume that anybody I deal with is going
integrity.
to be integrity.
Yeah, just having the integrity in yourself and for others.
Yeah,
that's what I always.
Yeah.
Keep going.
If somebody's going to tell me that something's a loser, okay, tell me that. I won't feel bad about it. If somebody has an opinion 180 degrees from mine, fine. I almost appreciate that because it forces me to look at my position a lot stronger. I may agree or I may disagree, but at least I know what the issues are and I've got them out on the table. So somebody who thinks different than me I'm okay with. It's like in politics. I don't need people who think exactly like me. I need people who think differently than me, and I need them to articulate why they think differently than me. And then looking at their position, I might change my mind. I might make a different decision. But hopefully I'll make the right decision because I've got some input. If I'm just in the echo chamber listening to myself and like kind people,
it sounds really nice.
It sounds nice,
until
it's
until
stupid.
you start doubling down on stupid.
Yeah, you're doubling down on stupid. And we don't need that.
That's why my professor used to always tell me that. He was like, never double down on stupid. If you make a mistake, get off of it as soon as you possibly can and move on and go do something else.
In accounting, we refer to that as a sunk cost. If you've made a mistake, whatever you spent getting you to this point is a sunk cost. Don't throw good money after bad.
Yeah, just keep going.
Stop it.
And I think that's like, I think about that, like people that go to the casino or things like that, like when you start, like it's like a hole almost, like, and it's
don't gamble. I mean, life is too complicated to gamble. Don't gamble. Invest. Make good choices. Invest in yourself. Get a good education. Make good choices. Take responsibility. Be a good person. If you do all those things, eventually you'll be very successful, whatever you do.
You said something else earlier about being honest and candid. I agree with that 100%. I'm a firm believer. I say this all the time. You can ask any of my friends. Like, I'm like, I will never be mad if you, like, even if you say you can do something and then you're like, hey, Bijan, bro, I can't do this for whatever reason it is. Like, this is what it is. Like, I'm gonna be like, oh, hey, and I'm gonna be like, okay, that's a trustworthy person right there because he could have just been like, and then I'm more willing to maybe be like, okay, maybe I can give it.
We work with so many contractors. And what I don't like about certain contractors is their inability to perform as promised. If you tell me you can do it, and you can tell me you can do it at this price on this time schedule, great. But don't tell me that and then not perform. I can understand it once or twice, but eventually it becomes a pattern. And what I really like are people who tell me what they can and can't do, when they can and can't do it, and do it as they say. I mean, I build trust in those people because they'll tell me what the truth is. They don't need to tell me what I want to hear. They'll tell me what is reality, and I need to hear reality. In business with time, reality is where it's at. So
how does someone value? How do they make a value on their time, how much their time is worth?
Well, the market will tell you how much your time is worth.
Okay.
Yeah, Mr. Market, with time, I use this example. We've been asked at times to be expert witnesses. When people get in arguments with each other, we become an expert witness. We've not done this a little bit. And when we started out as expert witnesses, our time was worth maybe $50 to $100 an hour. And then after a while I said, no, forget it. I'll be an expert witness to somebody that's gonna cost them $500 an hour. Now that's the going rate of a high-powered attorney in town. But if you want my opinion, that's what you're gonna pay, okay? If you don't want my opinion, it's a good way to determine that, you know, you're not gonna listen to me anyway, and why waste my time or your
Yeah,
time?
go pound sand, like.
Yeah, go pound sand.
Yeah.
So, you know, in the expert world, I've used that as my gauge. I'm worth this much, and if you wanna use me, and with time, I'll raise that rate.
Mm-hmm.
And most people won't because they can't afford it and it's not worth their time. But I use that as a gauge to say to myself, anything that we do in business and real estate, our time has gotta be worth something. And, you know, not because our time is worth something do people pay rents. It's because we have the right project at the right spot and the market says that we will be paid those rents. That's how we get paid rents.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and we try to get the market rent, whatever the market will bear. But if you look at your time in the same way, you'll get what the market will bear. And, you know, the market will tell you if you're worth anything, you know.
Those people on YouTube that will, like, right before you start, like, the video, are those fake? Are they phony balonies, like the ones that stand with, like, cars and mansions and, like, that tell you? Because so there's been one more recently that I've seen a lot, and it's been about investing into apartments and investing in, like, how you don't need any money to start. All you need is, like, and they've been really hammering it home on me the last couple of days, like.
Yeah, I would really, I avoid any snake oil salesman. If it's that easy and everybody can do it, I don't believe one bit of it. I just don't believe it. You can do that stuff, but it's through a lot of hard work. You know, if you wanna invest in apartments, then go out and study the market for a month or two. Gain some real market knowledge, know what the market is priced at, okay? And then to acquire an apartment, it takes hands-on management, it's a lot of work. Understand that. And understand that tenants do a lot of bad things sometimes.
Yeah.
So if you go into it with your eyes wide open, understanding what you're doing, and you're willing to work at it really hard and make a real commitment to it, yeah, you'll make money at it. But you're not gonna make money the way that they say on TV. You know, that you can just, with no work, no effort, nothing invested, hardly any thought about it, you'll succeed. You won't.
Mm-hmm.
You just, you know, there's, you know, people with money generally aren't stupid. And I've always said that, you know, big money doesn't make stupid decisions normally. So big money is smart. They're gonna be prudent in the spending of their money. And if you can be on the other side of a transaction with that, then they'll do it with you. But they're not gonna do it in a stupid way. So you better understand the parameters of the market, what it can do for you. And work within that, because you're not, if you happen to sneak up on somebody and steal something effectively from them because you're so brilliant, it likely will be the last deal that you do. You wanna find, you know, in business, the key is to repeat what you're doing over an extended period of time. And it's the ability to repeat and duplicate is where wealth comes from. It's like your integrity. You know, it'll take a lifetime to build integrity. It takes one transaction to ruin it. So
Sam tells me that all the time.
yeah,
Yeah, all the time he tells me that. He says it takes one moment for you to be like, you could be that best anchor ever, and it takes that one moment for you to just to be.
yeah, and and then you're lost. You know, then you have nothing, because in business, at the end of the day, you've got your integrity to sell it. You've got your candor, your integrity, your candor, your hard work, your commitment to an industry or people, and your ability to manage resources over an extended period of time. If you can couple all that together, you'll be a roaring success, but it'll take 20, 30, 40 years. You know, I think the best thing people could say about anybody is you're a 40-year overnight success, you know. It's taking you 40 years to get to where you're at, but you did it. You did it on your terms, and it worked out.
Last one real quick. Sorry, I'll keep going with you all day. what is your definition of success?
Well,
and how can you sustain success?
Well, and that's a very good question. And I think my definition of success is going to be different than your definition of success. Everybody has to define for themselves what success is. Okay? When I was first in this business, the ability to have $5,000 in my bank account I thought was a success. And it took me many years to get to that point. And I remember it was at Christmas time. We'd been married for 6, 7, 8 years. I just deposited a commission check into the bank. I think I had $7,000, $8,000 in the bank, the most money I'd ever had in the bank my entire life. I remember going up to the bank teller and I said, "How much money have I got?" She says, "You've got $7,000. And I said, I didn't hear that. How much do I have? And I wanted her to repeat it. I heard it. But that to me was a success because I didn't have anything like that, you know? So that was my first success, was just having some money in the bank account over and beyond what I needed to pay the bills each month. That to me was, and I felt so happy about that, okay? And then, you know, then having the ability to actually have some money to invest in the stock market. You know, we had set aside some of our earnings each year in the 1980s to actually invest in the stock market. I actually had some money that I could invest in a stock. You know, I never had money in the bank. Now I had money in the bank and I had a stock that I actually owned. And then we actually acquired our first piece of property. And it was the Federal Express distribution facility. And my partner and I found
the one off the freeway?
The one on Havana,
yeah.
across the street from the Spokane Indians ballpark.
Oh, yeah, okay.
So we own that facility. So we found Federal Express and found that home for them, and then when they found the home for them, the building wasn't for rent, somebody had to buy it, so we stepped in to buy it for them, and they became our tenant. So that was the first investment piece of property that we'd ever acquired. So I felt like a super success when we did that, you know, having no idea that other things would fall in place over time. And so success comes at each step of the way. You don't get to some spot in life where you say, "Oh, now I'm a success." I think you find successes along the way. You know, when you find the right person to marry, when you marry them, when you find your first piece of property or a house to buy, when you do something in business, you actually get paid for it, and then you have some money that you can save over to invest in the stock market. And, you know, so we've had hundreds of successes, but it's all building success. And in the beginning, I wouldn't have said to anybody, I remember driving down 27th where we first bought our house. And our house was $40,000, and there was a house on the street for, I think it was $65,000 back in the early 80s. And I thought to myself, if I could ever buy that house, that was about 50% larger than the house that we came in. It was brick. I thought if I could ever buy that house, I would be success. I would be happy, never sad again. Well, you know, that house is small compared to where we are today. And you know, but I think you need to dream, you need to have goals, you need to build on the successes that you have, and you need to define your success. It's one step at a time. And, you know, we didn't start this thing out thinking that, oh, we're gonna build this big house, we're gonna own a shopping center. I had no idea that was gonna happen. But it was just an extension of the work that we were doing. And I don't know where we're gonna be 10 years from now. You know, do we have other projects? I don't know. Am I in the retirement phase? Maybe.
That was gonna be my last question. Is it since you said that, I just got one more thing for you real quick.
Okay.
How does somebody make a good goal? Like, what is a goal? What is a goal to you? Like,
well, I think, you know, there's goals come in a lot of different ways. My parents were real good at the end of each year sitting down with us and setting goals. And in the beginning, they were simple goals. You're going to go to school, you're going to get a certain grade point average, or you're going to turn out for a sport, or you're going to do scouting, or you're going to get a job and save some money. So we would set those kind of goals each year when I was in grade school, junior high, and high school. And the older you got, the bigger your goals became, you know. When you're in high school getting ready to graduate, you're saying, okay, my goal is to go to college. And for 4 years you're in college. Now my goal is to graduate from college. Now my goal is to either go to graduate school or get a job. And so you're building constantly in that process. And I think you're looking around trying to see, what are my opportunities? You know, what is what I'm doing now going to lead me to next? And what could I do now? You know, when we first came to Spokane, my vision was only that I would ever be a broker and I would find buyers and sellers for deals. And then with time I figured out, no, the real money in this business is made in becoming a developer. If you could actually build something and people will pay you rent, that's where you get ahead.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? And then as you develop, what you realize is, well, it's not just this little project. Maybe I could do a big project or a bigger project. And so your skills, your resources, your vision becomes greater and bigger, and there's more that you can do. And so I couldn't have set the goal in 1980 that today I would be sitting in this house talking to you about success, because in 1980 I would have defined it a whole lot differently than I do today. And you know, whatever you can kind of envision, and whatever you would apply some rational common sense to, you know, with your education, you can obtain this kind of job at this point in time now. Now, in this job, when you're in this job, what else can you do? How can you bring more value to the business? What other things can you do that maybe you thought, you know, you couldn't do? In your end of the business, maybe you thought about being an anchor. I don't know, but you could. And then after you're an anchor locally, you could be an anchor regionally, and you can be an anchor nationally. What's to keep you from doing that? Well, nothing is to keep you from doing it, but there might be some deficiencies along the way that you have to shore up. I remember watching, I think it's Shannon Sharp, who played in the NFL.
I love Shannon Sharp, him and Skip Bayless, I watch every morning.
Now, when Shannon started out, he was a great athlete, a phenomenal athlete. But when he first came out into the broadcasting industry, his enunciation, his pronunciation of things was poor, you know. And I've seen that with time, he's really worked on that to develop better. I'm trying to think the word for it, but the ability to speak in a way that people can understand you without, without difficulty.
Yeah.
And his ability to speak has gotten so much better. And the ability to string ideas together without stumbling over your words, you know. And as an athlete, sometimes they just think of you as a dumb jock. But he's gotten to a point where he's good, he articulates an opinion, you can understand it.
I think he goes up with Skip all the time too.
All the time, and I would take his position over Skip's. I think Skip's kind of a blowhard.
Yeah, I think he is too.
But if you go back and look at the early days of the filming of that program, Shannon was a little bumbling, a little stumbling over his words, had a hard time articulating, but now he's just gotten better and better and better and better. And now he's a fun person, because I like listening to him, because I know Skip hasn't played a sport a day in his life.
Yeah.
And Shannon has been in the trenches.
Did it multiple times.
Times. So I'd rather hear from the guy who did it than the Colin Cowherd is another one. You know, Colin.
He's just a Spokane. He went to Eastern, I show love because he went to. But I agree with you on that. He's a blowhard too, because he's big on the Alabamas and
Yeah. I mean, what they have to do is they have to pick out. They have to stake out a position which will make as many people like him as hate him. And then but they don't do it based upon any experience or that they understand. The guys who've played the game and who've been in the trenches, who know what it's about, those are the people that have the greatest value, I think, to listen to. But Shannon, I bet you, when he was playing, didn't have any idea that he'd be a commentator afterwards. But he's being paid good money now for that opinion. And he's getting better at it all the time. And so, it doesn't matter where anybody starts. It matters, what you want to do with what you've got and where you can end up. So.
I like that. That was really amazing. I'm glad you said that about shit, because I love Shannon Sharp so much. I love them. I always watch. I really like Stephen A. Smith and them. I like Stephen A. Smith because I just feel like he's very I don't know what it is about him. He just has that like.
No, he does. You know, what Stephen Smith can do is he can
I'm
talk.
gonna shut this off.
Go ahead.
That's okay with
He
you.
can talk about the